How to win in life without working harder. I used to think the problem was that I wasn't working hard enough. So I worked harder, stayed later, said yes more, smiled through burnout, thought maybe if I just pushed a little more, I'd finally get seen, get chosen, get ahead. But the truth hit me one night, eyes burning, inbox full, soul empty. I wasn't failing because I was lazy. I was failing because I was playing the wrong game. Because life isn't a meritocracy. It's a web of power dynamics, perception, and unspoken rules. And no one hands you the rulebook. You either learn it the hard way or stay stuck thinking more hustle will fix what only clarity can. The first time I saw someone win by doing less, it pissed me off. They weren't the smartest, they weren't the kindest, but they knew who to impress, when to disappear, and how to talk just enough. That's when I realized, street smart beats book smart when the rules are unspoken. That's when I started asking better questions. Like, what is really being rewarded here? Who actually makes the decisions? Who gets away with doing less, and why? That's when I stopped grinding and started observing. Watching how people moved in rooms. Who others deferred to. Who smiled with their mouth but not their eyes. I learned how to read people, not from a book, but from being burned over and over. Manipulation tactics aren't always evil. Sometimes they're just survival tactics dressed up nice. And if you don't recognize them, you'll call them bad luck, while they cost you years. Muta 1 taught me, the survival mindset isn't about fear, it's about vision. Seeing the invisible levers. Who's emotionally starving and overcompensating? Who's scared of being irrelevant and masking it with arrogance? You don't fight them, you don't fix them, you move around them like water. That's how to win in life, without drowning in effort. I started noticing how much energy I was wasting trying to be understood by people who didn't even understand themselves. I was trying to be good in a game that rewarded visibility, not virtue. In office politics, the promotion doesn't go to the most qualified. It goes to the one who made themselves look essential, whether they are or not. And here's where human nature psychology kicks in. People are predictably irrational. We don't make decisions based on logic. We make them based on emotion, trust, and familiarity. Which means that sometimes the best move isn't to be better. It's to be known, to be remembered, to be the one they think of first, not because you shouted, but because you whispered at the right time. I used to underestimate presence. Thought it was fluff, but presence is power. It's why some people walk into a room and shift the whole energy, without saying a word. It's not magic, it's mastery of signals, emotional intelligence. Noticing who needs to feel in control, who's threatened by you, who's waiting for you to need them so they can feel needed. That's where most people miss it. They think the game is about doing more, so they burn out trying to outperform ghosts. When in reality, it's about doing what matters, strategically, precisely. Not louder, sharper. Think game theory in real life. You don't move every piece every turn. You protect your king, you bait the ego. You sacrifice what looks valuable to gain what is valuable. The moment I stopped trying to prove I was a hard worker and started being seen as a connector, a translator, a mirror, everything shifted. I wasn't the one sweating. I was the one they came to. Because I had insight, not just answers. I could decode unspoken social rules, translate emotional tension, name what people were too polite to admit. And that's the cheat code. People crave being seen more than being helped. If you can name what they feel but can't articulate, they'll follow you without knowing why. That's not manipulation, that's resonance. That's what most people miss when they chase value. Value isn't what you think is important. It's what solves their unspoken need. It doesn't mean becoming fake. It means becoming fluent in the language of perception. Understanding that effort doesn't scale, but perception does. You can spend 10 hours doing something quietly, or 1 hour making sure the right person sees you did it. That's not vanity. That's survival. Social hierarchy explained in simple terms. It's not just who's in charge on paper. It's who people defer to emotionally. Who people protect. Who people fear. You don't need to be alpha. You need to be aligned with the unspoken. With the currents. That's where real power lives. You win when you stop trying to be liked by everyone and start being respected by the right few. When you stop trying to do everything and start doing the right things visibly. When you realize that working harder is a trap if it's keeping you blind to the system you're in. Because the system is always there. In families, in teams, in cultures. There are roles. There are expectations. There are power structures that aren't fair, but they are real. And the ones who win aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who adapt without losing themselves. That's the art. Holding your center while shifting your strategy. Being water, not a martyr. You don't need to hustle harder to earn your place. You need to see the board, play the long game, and choose your battles. Most people lose not because they're weak, but because they waste their strength fighting the wrong wars. And when you stop needing to prove yourself, you become dangerous in the best way. Calm, observant, unshakable. You don't chase validation. You notice power flows. You choose where your energy goes. And suddenly, you're not in the grind anymore. You're in the game. And in the game, silence is often louder than noise. The person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't explain, who simply observes, that's the person others start watching. That's when the dynamic flips. You're no longer reacting to the system. You're positioning yourself within it. Not to dominate, just to stop being dominated. I remember sitting in meetings where I used to over-prepare, over-speak, try to impress. Now I'd say less, but what I said hit harder. Because it wasn't coming from anxiety. It came from clarity. People trust clarity. People follow stillness. They don't consciously know why, but they feel it. That's emotional intelligence at work. Not just reading others, but knowing what signals you're sending without saying a word. Here's the paradox. The less you need approval, the more influence you tend to have. Because people can feel when you're not trying to impress them. That's when they lean in. Not because you're louder, but because you're grounded. That's survival mindset turned to social power. That's what most grind culture never teaches. They give you tactics, but not presence. They teach you effort, but not leverage. And leverage is everything, not just in money, but in emotion, attention, power. Knowing when your silence carries more weight than your effort. Knowing when your absence creates more pull than your presence. That's how to win without burning out. But to get there, you have to unlearn the rules you were taught as a child. The rule that said, be good and you'll be rewarded. The rule that said, try harder and people will see your worth. Those rules work in theory. But real life is messier. People don't just reward goodness. They reward what makes them feel safe, seen, or superior. If you don't see that, you'll be stuck wondering why others win with less effort. This isn't about becoming manipulative. It's about becoming awake. There's a difference. Psychological manipulation is when you exploit others to win. Strategic awareness is when you stop letting others exploit you unconsciously. It's a reclaiming of your energy, your clarity, your moves. You stop playing defense. You stop fixing what isn't yours. You stop managing other people's projections. And in that space, you move lighter. You let go of roles that never fit. You realize that doing more isn't noble if it's making you invisible. You stop trying to be indispensable to people who see you as disposable. Instead, you align with those who recognize signal over noise, who reward clarity over chaos, who know the game and are playing clean. And when you find them, it clicks. Life stops feeling like a grind. It starts feeling like a rhythm. You're not just reacting, you're composing. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about escaping effort. It's about redirecting it, from desperate proving to strategic building. From being everywhere to being in the right place. From endless movement to intentional momentum. And the moment you start doing that, people notice, even if they don't say it. They feel your detachment from drama. They feel your refusal to chase approval. They feel your awareness, and it unsettles them. Because most people are still sleepwalking through life, on emotional autopilot. And your clarity makes them question their own confusion. That's power. Not the kind that crushes others. The kind that makes others rise, if they're ready. The kind that doesn't beg to be seen. It sees. That doesn't compete. It creates its own lane. That doesn't react. It responds with purpose. And maybe that's the real win. Not getting to the top of someone else's ladder, but building your own. Quietly. Intentionally. On your terms. Not to escape the system, but to navigate it without being consumed. So next time you're tempted to double your effort, pause. Ask. What am I actually trying to earn? And from who? What if the real power isn't in working harder, but in seeing deeper? What if the rules you've been playing by were never yours to begin with? And what happens when you finally stop playing their game?